The winners of President Trump's 2017 fake news awards have been announced. We're going to run through them. We're going to see what he left out. And we're going to contrast their fake news against his real-world successes. All right, the winners of the 2017 fake news awards are here. As expected, CNN had a really strong showing, but I think a couple were left out. Let's run through them. Number one, the New York Times' Paul Krugman. He claimed that when Trump was elected, the economy would never recover. Businesses are doing incredibly well. Apple is investing nearly $500 million in creating 22,000 jobs. The Dow smashed 26,000. The NASDAQ 7,000. Fake news, Paul Krugman. You deserve your award. Number two, ABC News' Brian Ross chokes and sends markets in a downward spiral after a fake news report on Russia collusion. What needs to be said, Brian Ross was essentially suspended from ABC, demoted, but shamed globally, which was the best part of all. More fake news, well-deserved award. Number three, CNN falsely reported that Donald Trump, then candidate Donald Trump, and his son Donald Trump Jr. Had access to hacked documents from WikiLeaks before they were publicly released, thereby proving collusion between the Trump campaign and WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks, that's alleged to be in collusion with the Russian government, except the information was false. And this all stemmed from a Donald Trump Jr. tweet that the left said it was about WikiLeaks information. They claim that he tweeted it before WikiLeaks publicly released the info. A quick Google search proved they were wrong. It was fake news. They never vetted it. They just wanted to attack Donald Trump Jr., ran with the story, didn't vet the story, and for that, they get a well-deserved, well-earned fake news award. Number four. Time falsely reported that President Trump removed the bust of Martin Luther King Jr. from the Oval Office. Never happened. Fake news. Again, they never researched it, never sourced it, never vetted it. And they were very silent when Barack Obama actually removed a bust of Winston Churchill. Number five, Washington Post falsely reported the president's massive sold-out rally in Pensacola, Florida, was empty. Dave Weigel from the Washington Post took a photo hours before Trump got there and hours before the doors were opened for the general public. And then while the rally was going on, or even afterward, he posted photos of the empty arena that wasn't yet open as from the rally while it was ongoing. Now, I had this happen to me in South Florida. I debunked a Reuters reporter. I believe she was from Reuters. She did the same thing at the rally here in Broward County in South Florida. We as press got in much earlier. I was sitting in the area, and this woman was sitting off to my left. I was able to figure that out from the picture she later released. When they opened the doors, it was packed. There had to be 10, 12,000 people there. And it was even more impressive because it was a torrential South Florida rainstorm. The rain was coming down in buckets. There was about 6 inches of water on the ground. The arena was still full. People were energized to see Donald Trump. And later that day, while I was in the arena, the BB&T Center, big venue here, concerts, our hockey teams play there, she put these photos up. And I was checking Twitter. I saw them. And I was at the venue, sitting just to her right, maybe, I don't know, about 50, 60 feet to her right. I put up my own photos, tagged her, and she started to backpedal that she was at a bad angle. And the section she shot was actually a section that wasn't open, and it was her mistake. No, she was trying to say that a packed rally was empty. We thoroughly debunked her. Thank God my photo, my tweet went viral. So the mainstream media has been doing this. Washington Post earns the award. Dave Weigel personally should have been named in this one, though. Number six, this was a great one. You remember this one. CNN falsely edited a video to make it appear that President Trump defiantly overfed fish during a visit to Japan. Well, it was actually Japan's Prime Minister Abe that started feeding the fish as much food. But think about how stupid this was. In addition to CNN deceptively editing the video and taking out the parts with the Japanese Prime Minister also feeding the fish, they were really trying to paint a narrative that Donald Trump is a guy who indiscriminately wants to overfeed a koi pond and kill the fish. I mean, their Trump derangement syndrome is so out of control that the stuff they come up with to hit the president is now just bizarre. Number seven, this is a great one. CNN falsely reported that Anthony Scaramucci's meeting with a Russian, they falsely reported about Anthony Scaramucci's meeting with a Russian, but retracted it due to a significant breakdown in process. 3 CNN employees had to resign over this one. And what they fail to mention in this piece is that Scaramucci is suing them for $100 million. Now, you would think if somebody sued you for $100 million, I know I would. Somebody sued me for $100 million for me falling down on the job, I'd probably stop falling down on the job. But no, CNN doubles down. They continue the fake news. They don't care about these 9-figure lawsuits that they'll probably lose. They're so hell-bent on destroying Trump that they're willing to run their whole network into the ground to do it. Number 8, Newsweek falsely reported that Polish First Lady Agata Kornhauser-Duda did not shake President Trump's hands. And you remember this. They used a bunch of photos showing the First Lady not shaking his hand, but failed to use the photo vividly and clearly showing the First Lady of Poland shaking President Trump's hand. If that's not deceptive selective editing and an editorial process that is biased against the president, I don't know what is. The photo existed of her shaking his hand. They chose not to use it. They created a story it never happened when they had photo evidence that it did. In some cultures, they call that lying. Yeah, the media lies. I know you can't believe it, but they do. Number 9, CNN falsely reported that FBI Director James Comey would dispute President Trump's claim that he was told he is not under investigation. Not only was it fake news, Comey, in fact, did tell President Trump he was not under investigation, never retracted the claim. CNN looked like absolute morons once again. CNN looked like morons once. Number 10, the New York Times falsely claimed on the front page that the Trump administration had hidden a climate report. Well, the Washington Post had to run a headline, New York Times guilty of large screw-up on climate change story. So when fake news, Washington Post is debunking the fake news New York Times, it's just glorious. I love watching the left eat each other. Number 11, last but not least, the entire Russia collusion narrative, ergo the entire mainstream media gets an award, a fake news award for pushing the false Russia collusion narrative. Donald Trump tweeted earlier this month, well, now that collusion with Russia is proving to be a total hoax, and the only collusion is with Hillary and the FBI in Russia, the fake news media, mainstream media, and this phony new book, Wolf's book, hitting out at every new front imaginable. They should try winning an election. Sad. Well, that drove them nuts. Now, while the fake news media was focused on fake failures of President Trump, they ignored massive successes. So let's go through those. This is from the GOP's actual website, the Republican National Committee's website. Number 1, the economy has created nearly 2 million jobs and gained over $8 trillion in wealth since the president's inauguration. That'll be in addition to the $4 trillion being repatriated into the hands of Americans and businesses due to tax reform and deregulation. I'd call that a pretty big win. I'd call that pretty significant, wouldn't you? Mainstream media won't report on it. But I think that's pretty good one for any administration. They don't want to tell you about it. Number 2, African Americans and Hispanics are enjoying the lowest unemployment rate in history. Well, they can't report on that because that debunks the whole Trump is a racist narrative. Barack Obama, African American unemployment under Obama hit record highs. The economy was a disaster. Trump is putting people of color back to work. He's really failing as a racist, isn't he? Man is the least racist person. He sued to have Mar-a-Lago integrated when he bought it. He took on the wealthiest of the wealthy in Palm Beach to have his club integrated. It is a disgrace they call this man a racist. Number 3, the president signed historic tax cuts and relief for hardworking Americans not seen since Ronald Reagan. And I'll combine number 4 with number 3. The President Trump's plan to cut regulations has exceeded the 2 out of every 1 mandate. He's issuing 22 deregulatory actions for every 1 regulatory action. And I'll even add number 3 in there. The president has unleashed an American energy boom by ending Obama-era regulations, approving the Keystone Pipeline, auctioning off millions of new acres for energy exploration, and opening up ANWR. And we're seeing the results in our economy. Well, going back to work, I was sitting with 2 very high net worth business people last night. They are making tons of investments in new projects, in new companies, in sectors they've never invested in before. 2 men are about to create 500 to 1,000 jobs with their investments. This is the evil 1%, the evil, greedy 1%. They're not greedy at all. These are kind, philanthropic people who are getting people back to work. They're the engines of our economy, and now they have increased capital to do it. And one of these guys said to me, his mantra in life is leaving people better off than he found them. That pretty much debunks the left's narrative of the evil 1%, right? He said, I've been very fortunate. I've made a lot of money. I'm very wealthy. I want to leave people better off than I found them. If I can invest in these new businesses, great concepts, and I can put 500, 1,000 people to work, I'll be a very happy man. Sort of really just crushes the evil 1%er narrative. The economy is doing so well. And Trump's policies are responsible for it. Number 6, ISIS is crushed. Obama said ISIS was a multi-generational problem. Trump crushed him in about 9 months. No more even needs to be said on that. Number 7, Donald Trump followed through on his promise to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of the state of Israel and move the embassy, order the State Department to move the embassy there. A loud and clear message to bad actors in the Middle East region that Israel is our ally. They're our most important strategic partner. We're going to back them up. They're going to back us up. And you're seeing the ripple effect now. That region is starting to feel a little bit safer. And I feel that we can add some stability. I don't think we'll ever fully stabilize the Middle East, but I feel that this renewed partnership with Israel, after Obama treating them like garbage for 8 years, is going to strengthen the security of the region and the Middle East as a whole. And Jordan has been a pretty good partner as well. And if we can all work together and neutralize Iran and help the people protesting there form a new democratic government, we've done more for the Middle East than the last 4 administrations combined. Number 8, with President Trump's encouragement, this one's a great one. More member nations are paying their fair share for the common defense in the NATO alliance. Now, remember during the election, oh my God, Trump is asking NATO nations to pay. Our standing in the world is going to be crushed. Everybody's going to exit NATO. The U.S. is going to go it alone. We're all going to die. It's Armageddon. When Trump told the NATO nations to pay their fair share, you know what they said? Okay. And they broke out their checkbooks and they paid. Obama never asked. Obama was the world's doormat. He never asked them to pay their fair share. Now Trump's doing it with the UN. They're going to pay as well. Obama instead sent billions to Iran so that they could build nukes with North Korea. Trump steps in. He says, we're going to end that. And by the way, you guys owe us money. Buck up. Pay us. Those nations said, okay. They signed the check. They paid. Our NATO alliances have never been stronger. Poland is thriving. It's a front line of defense, Poland, if Russia would ever get too aggressive. I mean, the world is so much safer under this administration. Number 9 is really important. Signed the Veterans Accountability and Whistleblower Protection Act to allow senior officials in the VA to fire failing employees, and it establishes safeguards to protect whistleblowers. We owe no greater debt to anyone than we do our veterans. Young guys in their 20s coming home, losing limbs, eyes, traumatic brain injuries, post-traumatic stress disorder, and the VA was a mess. Well, now, under this act, people can be fired. People are being held accountable. Whistleblowers now have protection. And you talk to any veteran, they'll tell you it's still bad, but it's getting better. It's getting better. And I think that this should be, I know every American agrees with me. It's not what I think. I know every American agrees with me. And I would agree that our Canadian friends agree with me as well, because you have your own veterans coming back from this conflict. We owe our veterans everything for the sacrifices they and their families give to our nations. Their health care, their post-trauma treatment when they come home should be a pleasure for them, not the hell it currently is at the VA. And President Trump is finally doing something about that. And that was long overdue. We need to do much, much more. Number 10, President Trump kept his promise and appointed Associate Justice Neil Gorsuch to the U.S. Supreme Court. He's also appointed outstanding federal judges. And down here in Florida, in the Southern District of Florida, we have 5 vacancies on the federal bench. I've seen the 10 names that have gone up to the president's desk. I personally know 2 of them. These are all exceptional jurists. I know some others by reputation. I personally know 2. The 2 that I know, hardcore conservatives, both have impeccable national security credentials. Now, one of them, who's actually a good personal friend of mine, is the only woman whose name is being floated. I think she's going to get her judgeship. And there are a few people I know who are more deserving. This woman loves her nation. She was a national security prosecutor. She's just an outstanding human being, outstanding American, a great conservative. She is going to be an asset to the judiciary and the federal bench. Now, what were some things that were left out? Well, I think there were more wins. I think we got to look at what's going on with immigration and customs enforcement, being able to do their jobs, the respect for law enforcement and the rule of law. And with regards to the fake news awards, I would have liked to have seen 3 other categories. Special mention in broadcast television, and that would have gone to Jim Acosta and Brian Stelter over at CNN. Special mention for print that should have gone to Maggie Haberman and Glenn Thrush. And special mention for periodicals, just give it to Vanity Fair because they've all of a sudden jumped into the political fray with their own special blend of fake news. But what's most glorious is watching the mainstream media implode and watching their allies in the Democratic National Committee lose their minds over Trump's successes and their inability to control the narrative because the president, and now us, well, we're all calling out the fake news. If you like this content, if you want me to keep bringing you more of it, please subscribe to our premium service at www.therebel.media/shows. Do not forget to check out my new 1-hour show, Off the Cuff, Declassified, right here on The Rebel. You are going to love it. I'll be back with you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.